Moshe is the undisputed greatest person ever to walk on this earth, ever, including any figure you might think somehow, wins this award. They don't. He wins. And we have to understand it's just not like some poof, magic thing that, he was just amazing. Remember, all people are born with challenges, with potential not to accomplish their full potential. Potentially, everyone is doomed to fail, but when they push hard enough, they can overcome that doom and turn their life into something unbelievable. And that's what Moshe represents. It wasn't a free ride for Moshe. Moshe was the greatest person ever because he worked harder than anyone else. He took what he was given and he worked with it hard. Nothing comes free in life because anything that would come free would have nothing to do with you. And that Moshe doesn't represent this gifted man that just was a saint. And when you create that kind of a story, it's just make-believe. He made himself great because he never gave up and never stopped trying to just move closer to truth, closer to Hashem, and to fulfill that which he was created for. And that is the lesson of Moshe. We have to bring out the Moshe in us. Everyone wants to be like someone else today. Everyone has these wonderful role models. If you want a role model, Moshe is the role model. We all have to try to be like Moshe. And it's funny, we just praised him, but now we're going to get a little bit critical of him, but let's go. Okay, so one of the really interesting stories in the beginning of Moshe's, so to speak, adult life, he's just becoming an adult actually. There's discussion to how old he was when the story took place, bar mitzvah, below bar mitzvah. He wasn't such an old man yet, but it's an interesting story. It's the beginning of his ability, where we start to see his ability to stand up and be strong against, first of all, risking his own personal safety, perhaps even risking his life, for the sake of another. And that is the famous story where there's an Egyptian that's beating a Jewish slave to death. And Moshe, who was a prince, somewhat prince in Egypt at the time, he was raised in the palace of Pharaoh. He was taken as adopted, so to speak, by Pharaoh's daughter, who herself anyway converted and became Jewish. But still, he was raised in the palace, and he had a gifted life in that sense. Now, we're going to now follow Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, the main person behind everything that happens now with the Jewish people in this story. So he grows up and becomes a young man. Now, young men were real young men at a young age. He could have been bar mitzvah age over here, or just before bar mitzvah. That I have to check. There's different opinions. But anyway, he grows up and he goes out and he sees the suffering of the Jewish people, of his brethren. There was really suffering because the Egyptians went with extreme cruelty in their servitude. They really suppressed them. They beat them. They murdered their children. They did everything they could to break their spirit, and that was part of it. They wanted to weaken them as a people and completely beat them into submission. Moshe sees this, and part of this we have a glimpse into it with just one particular story, a sad and sick story. But here's the story. Moshe sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Jewish slave, and in this case he's trying to kill him. And the question is, why is he trying to kill this Egyptian slave? We don't find that the Egyptians murdered everybody. They wanted slaves. But this slave he wanted to get rid of because he knew too much about him. What did he know about him? This taskmaster put his eyes on this Jewish slave's wife, and he used his power to trick her and this man. He made this man leave his home, and in the olden days there wasn't so much artificial light. It was very dark at night, and he snuck in the house, presented himself as if he was this woman's husband, and essentially raped this man's wife. I'm not sure how violent it was because, again, he tricked everybody, but it was obviously, this is rape. And the husband and the wife figured it out. They realized it because, so you know what's going on some degree. So they realized it. The Egyptian man realized that they realized it. And his solution was, okay, it's time to get rid of this man, because even that was illegal. That was illegal to do in Egypt. And he could have got in trouble. So he said, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'll kill him. What's wrong? We'll kill one more Jew. What's the problem? Nothing's changed in this world. I mean, there's still the philosophy, kill one more Jew, who nobody cares, So that's the story. And now we have Moses, in the middle of the story. And he's watching what's happening, and he has to make a quick decision. His decision is that I'm going to save this Jewish man at all costs, because he was giving up a lot. But of course, what kind of calculation is it? He's seeing this, and he's not gonna let this happen. But let's appreciate who Moshe was now. We don't want to look at a superficial story. When you study the Bible superficially, you really are more lost than found, right? But let's become a bit found instead of being so lost. So how does the story really work? So we have to understand Moshe Rabbeinu already at this young age was a sage. He had the power, the mental power, and the spiritual power of a towering giant, spiritual giant. We'll see in the story how it proves it. He looks at the Egyptian and uses what's called divine communication, like a level of prophecy, or just below prophecy, although he becomes the greatest prophet, and he's able to perceive everything that's happening in this story. He's able to tap into, almost like the source of all truth, and he understands that this Egyptian is a wicked Egyptian. He understands what he did to this man, and now he takes one step further. What does he do? He decides that before I kill this Egyptian, I want to know that I'm not potentially killing someone that will come to this world righteous and convert to become Jewish. If I'm going to kill a future convert to Judaism, then it's not worth that I should kill him. It's not fair, because I will be causing that potential good never to happen. And so he looks he looks into the past, first of all, to check. Also, another thing that you have to check, because when you're, Moshe, you need a lot of information that they have. I need to know that his father wasn't righteous, his grandfather wasn't righteous. If he came from righteous people, maybe he deserves a second chance. So he checks, does this man come from righteous people or not? And he doesn't. He checks in the future, will anyone righteous come from him? Will anyone convert? No. And after doing that, he kills him. And this we have to understand as well. How did he kill him? He took a knife, he took a rock, he took a brick. How did he kill him? He killed him like a barbarian, like an animal? He didn't kill him like an animal. He was a holy person. He was a godly person. He was a saintly person. You know how he killed the Egyptian? He killed him, exactly, thank you. He killed him by using one of the divine names that have within it a power, which of course he was granted that power from God, to use it to take this Egyptian's life, which completely gives us a whole new type of story. A powerful idea here is this. He didn't just kill God. He didn't just kill the Egyptian because it was legal. The law said I could. The law said I should. God helped him kill the Egyptian. God himself, by allowing him to use one of his holy names that had a power to take that life away. So it was unbelievable. God was a partner in taking this Egyptian's life. It wasn't done barbarically with knife, gun, sticks, stones. It wasn't like the way we would, of course, if we were in Hollywood trying to make it into a movie, we would make it such an ugly scene, and we would paint a picture of just an ugly person. a barbaric person, and that would be the farthest thing from what Moshe was. Interesting just to point out, there was the cartoon. They made a cartoon of the story of Moses and Aaron, and they have them both like walking around like as if they're bodybuilders in tight t-shirts, like walking around like they're gonna have a competition. Aaron, Moshe, check out my traps. Check out the traps. Check out the rear delts. Like ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. To think Moses is looking at how square his boxes are on his stomach. It's so stupidity that and until you teach yourself to rise above that stupidity, so then how would you know? How would you know what kind of person Moshe was? Of course you would think, yeah, he was a strong man. He was like, he would have made a good what? He would have made a good gladiator. I don't know. Who knows what you're going to think until you put sense in your brain. It's not there yet. So the Torah tells us, you have to know. If you think Moshe Rabbeinu took his two hands, his left and his right hand, and used it for violence, strangled him, beat him like animals do, no. That's not how Moshe Rabbeinu killed him. Moshe Rabbeinu took his life as an emissary of God in a godly way, the way God would take a life. That's how he took the life, with the spoken word. He spoke, and his life was taken away from him. That's unbelievable. That's how Moshe took his life. And just to keep in mind, it was a mitzvah to do it, and he was getting rid of evil, and he was saving the victim's life, and he did something that was only good, pure good. This was an act of pure goodness. Pure goodness. Now, with that said, let's follow the story. And then because there's another story we have to understand in here. But this is part one of the story is this. You have to know, and everyone has to know, that Moshe Rabbeinu was a saintly, godly man. He was a man of God. Ish Eloki. And that's how he behaved in everything he did. And when he had to take a life, it was done with godliness. That's how it was done. Not like people that think that they're coming in the name of God and murdering, raping, destroying Hashem's world. That's not godly. They're not doing that for God.